Sarah, you're on mute. I know you're welcoming everyone, but you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Welcome to our March virtual field trip. And if you want to go ahead and share where you're joining us from, and we will be using the Q&A feature today to ask any of our questions. So you can find that if you have a question throughout the day on what you're seeing or what we're learning. So again, welcome to our virtual field trip where we are in Barrett, Minnesota today at the West Central Area High School. And we are going to be joining their ag teacher and FFA advisor, Mr. Eric Swatsky, for a tour of their greenhouse. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Eric.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks, and welcome to the greenhouse. We'll maybe take a little bit of a talk through of all the fun things that we have going on here first, and then we'll go through and see a lot of different things today. So hopefully you guys are ready to see a lot of plants. It's cold out, so why don't we get inside where it's warm and check some cool stuff out. So we have this nice greenhouse for our high school students. So in many high schools across the state and across the nation, we teach agriculture to those students. So we teach them how to grow food, how to take care of animals, and how to help us feed our community members. And so this is one of the best ways to do that. So we put this greenhouse up a couple of years ago, and our students, who you'll see some of them later on in the tour, take care of this whole place. So they're taught how to take care of a greenhouse. They're taught how to take care of plants, and manage all the systems. And this is a really highly technical one. There's a lot of really cool stuff in here. We have, if you look around, we have a lot of water systems that are set up in here. We have shade curtains that open and close if it's too sunny. Like today, it's really hot out in the greenhouse if we didn't have shade. So we actually put the shade curtains up so that it would actually cool it down. Even though it's so cool outside, it would get really, really warm. I would say it's about 74 degrees in here now. If we didn't have those shade curtains up, it would probably be in the mid to upper 80s in this greenhouse right now. So it really is a really cool way to utilize the sun to be able to take care of plants during the colder parts of the year. So we'll start taking a look at some stuff. So we have a lot of plants that we've been using as lab plants. You can see some pansies here. These were planted in the middle of our winter a couple of months ago, and they're just getting a chance to bloom for our kids to just get some experience and do a few small plants. We've taken some plants. You maybe know that we usually get plants from seeds, but we can also take a plant. This one's called croton. We took one of these and we actually cut a bunch of the stems off of it and planted them in the pots, and now they've grown. This is only about 3 months of them since they were one plant. We were able to get them to grow, and now we're trying some new ones out from those parent plants, we call it. So you can kind of see that. We show the kids what it's like to see a plant that goes through winter dormancy. So this is a cool vining plant called honeysuckle, and if you get real close, you can see it's just starting to get some new green leaves. So this plant wasn't dead. So it had the opportunity to go through winter, and now that it's getting more sunlight every day, it's decided to start to grow again and come out of its winter dormancy. What you see here is a whole table full of something that we are really proud of in Minnesota. We are able to grow grapes in Minnesota with some grapes that are varieties that were created right here in our University of Minnesota. And one of the things we have locally is a vineyard, and that vineyard owner works with us. And so they brought us some of their clips from when they did their pruning for the winter time. They will take a bunch of the plant off every single winter, and then it'll grow back. And so what we can do with this, and we show the kids, is we can actually take something like this and we can cut it with the pruners. And I can go where any one of these buds are. And if I was to take a cutting underneath one of those buds, this was originally where you might have seen a leaf, or you might have seen a grape come off of, a bundle of grapes come off of. But because I've clipped it, this has the ability to change what it's supposed to become. And if I put this in the soil, it will actually know that it's in soil, and it will grow roots. And so we just did this the other day. There's about 150 of them. We did these about 2 months ago, and you can see this was a stem that then started to grow, and you can see that leaf growing off of that. But that was the old stem. This was an old stem. We have new growth, and we're actually helping this farmer out because these will all grow really nice like this. And maybe I'm gonna look. I didn't even look at this thing. We'll see if we can see some roots. there's a really nice root system there. And so now this farmer can take this and put this back in his vineyard and continue to grow plants or grow his farm. So that's something we're trying to teach our kids and help our community members out. So as we go along, you can see some plants. Maybe you know we've got a lot of petunias. These are brand new. I'll show you a little later on how we get them originally, because we actually get them ordered and sent to us. Here we've got a bloom of one right here. But what we actually do right now is, it's cool, that's a beautiful flower, but we want a lot of those. So we're actually going to teach our kids that the best thing you can do right now when they're like this is to actually pull each of the buds off instead of letting it bloom. And instead of having all of that food and energy in the soil go to making a pretty flower, now that plant is going to know, oh, maybe I should just use that energy to grow more roots and more leaves and more stems. And if I do that, then I'll get more stems that'll have more blooms on it, and it'll be fuller. And so it's kind of weird kind of to think that, oh, that pretty flower won't be able to bloom, but that's just for now. It'll be really good once we get into the springtime, and we've got these in hanging baskets and in people's planters around their homes. Over here, we've got a few of our foods. We got a few things mixed in here, but this is something you might know from some of your winter snacks, peppermint, right? So if you were to just take a little leaf of that and take a smell of that, it's a full mint smell, that peppermint smell. If you got that little white and red candy and you've had that before, the little round ones, that's what we're growing there. This is basil. So if
Eric,
you're
I'm gonna interject here quick with a question.
Yes.
We have people wondering, how old are these plants that we're looking at right now?
Yeah, so like these ones here were probably planted, I would guess, somewhere around 6 or 7 weeks ago, at a big greenhouse. Maybe there's a lot of them in the Twin Cities, Cottage Grove, Plymouth area, and then they will get shipped to us after they've gotten that first rooting. And I'll pull one of these up just so you can kind of see. But there is a root system in here. Actually, I'm going to do a basil just because I know the basil has been in a little bit longer. That root system is really well developed now. So these plants our kids will transplant next week into bigger pots. And these are all ones that we will actually sell to community members that want to grow some of their own food. We'll show you later on some food we're going to use for our own students and community members sooner. These both actually are ones that are used a lot in cooking. We've got basil. So if you like your sauces for your spaghetti, that would be something that would go in there. And then this is thyme. So if you've ever had a little container in the pantry that says thyme on it, that's that actual plant. That's actually just a dried version of that. One of the other things that we like to do is we are in Western Minnesota. So lots of farmland. Lots of people are growing corn and soybeans and sugar beets and all kinds of crops. A lot of it is for human use, but a lot more is actually used for animals. So for feed for our animals. One example being corn. So we have corn plants here. This whole table looks kind of gross, and there's a very specific reason we're doing that. We are working with scientists that work in farm fields. The term that we call them is agronomists. Agronomists work with farmers and they look at what are things that are causing our plants to not grow well. And we have an agronomist that is teaching our students, in this case, if I put too much plant food next to my corn plant, what can happen? And this plant is a lot more yellow than we would like it to be. This should be deep green in color, even growing an additional leaf at this point, maybe not quite so much purple. Those are little things we look for and say, ooh, we didn't do this quite right. This one you might not recognize if you haven't been out in the fields when they're young, but when you get a little bit bigger, this is soybeans. So this is a nice, healthy soybean that was planted at a fairly good depth, maybe a little bit too deep. And then these are soybean plants that were allowed to sit after they were planted. We took them outside in the cold for a couple of hours just to see what if I went out and I planted my field and then we had a cold overnight, what would it do to my plants? And so this is supposed to show that. So everything on this table has something we did different to it. And most of these should be all the same size. You can see a lot are smaller than they're supposed to be, different colors than we would like to see. So we are trying to show people what is going wrong, and that helps us figure out how to do it right. Seems a little bit backwards, but we want to find those things. What do we need to do to make our plants grow better? We're going to make a little bit of a path here. So if there happen to be a question, this will be a time in a minute. The last one here on this table, excuse me, is some coleus, some really pretty leafy plants. So I'll let Kelsey take a little walk here for a second, and then we will head down the line.
Yeah, so this might be a good opportunity to also say thank you to Kelsey, who happens to be my daughter and the ag student in the northern part of Minnesota who's doing our camera work today. But the next question I have for you, Eric, is did you order your greenhouse from a kit or were you able to build it from scratch?
So this was a greenhouse company. Their job is to design greenhouses and work with us. So they looked at our site and they actually designed it. They have engineers, they have construction crews that come out and they put the whole system up for us. It's out of Minnesota. The company is called AJ Lauer. It's a very, very well-known company. Most of the university research greenhouses were built by them. So it's a very nice system. There are ones that you can buy that are kit style. Typically, they require quite a bit more of the individual teacher knowing a lot more about how to build and design them. So I felt like I'd go to the experts and let them do that job. I can teach the kids, but I'd love to have some more expertise in how to design the facility. So good question. Okay, so we're on the second half of the first room. We have 2 rooms to go through. And so you're going to see an area now. I haven't explained. I'll talk about these black mats in a minute here. But here we've got plants that we've transplanted into these little 6-packs. So there's 6 in a pod. And we have them in a tray of water. And if you didn't know, most of your plants don't really like it if I just stand here and I water over the top, because what happens is the leaves aren't going to soak the water up. It's the soil that soaks the water up and goes through the plant. And so I should be getting water through the bottom. So these plants will actually soak water up from the bottom. Okay, so we do use some of these trays, but just recently, and these are peppers, by the way. These are called Big Bertha. They're like your big green pepper. These are Anaheim peppers. They're a pretty large pepper as well, but they're good to throw in a salsa. This one, I don't know how well we can read it on the screen. A kid wrote lunch box. So it's a lunchbox yellow. So these are a tiny, tiny little lunchboxable sized pepper that you could grow right in your windowsill in a little pot and then throw it into your lunchbox before you go to school. But to the water, so like these trays don't need to be on this black mat anymore. I can actually set these plants now on this mat, and there will be a water line that's going to run through this, and this is called a soaker hose. The water drips out of that hose. This mat feels a lot like the inside of my comforter or my bedding on my bed, and so that bedspread can soak up a lot of water, and it soaks through this mat and then does the same thing that this water did in the tray. So these plants will soak it up from the bottom, and you'll see some that are doing that already. Okay, so we had our peppers. We've got sweet potato ivy, kind of a relative of your sweet potato that you eat. This is a decorative sweet potato ivy. And you can see we transplanted these just a few days ago. Look at all them roots. Those kids in my classes need to transplant these like 2 days ago. So we've got work to do. So these are ones that will go into hanging baskets, and they droop over the hanging baskets. And fun facts, many of these varieties, if you dig them up, there is a little itty bitty sweet potato, but I don't know if it's edible. It's just a little guy. Cool plant called vinca. These are some spikes that are used for arrangements, really nice arrangements in maybe your planter outside of your front of your house. Dracaena spikes. And here we've got a nice filler material plant called Dusty Miller. You can see the little white on it. It looks like dust. So that's all it is. It just grows into a bigger plant and fills our plants up, our potters up. Okay. A few more spikes over here. Similar, some grasses. And then our last table in this room, we'll just walk through a few more things. You can see some more plants. I was saying to the group before we started that maybe kids will be able to go home and tell folks what they learned. We'll try to remember some of these plant names. These, if you know these, that's pretty awesome. If you don't, these are all called begonias. So those are all begonias, really cool red flowers on them. There's another red flower, red and purple flower called fuchsia. These are really amazing, and these do really well in big hanging baskets, and they droop. We'll take just a handful, maybe 4 or 5 of these, and put them in a basket, and they'll just be this massive amount of drooping flowers in a few months here. And so this whole greenhouse, by the way, we will sell about 9,000 flowers out of here in about a month and a half. And these will all be moved into hanging baskets over the next 2 weeks, and they'll be put up in the air. We have drip line systems where the drippers will drip water into each of the baskets, and then we open it up to our community, and the community just comes in here and loves what they're able to get from our students and be able to see what they've been learning. We haven't been able to see this so far in the tour, but this is when I order my plants. This is what it looks like. Okay, so this is a petunia variety, and I'll squeeze the bottom of one of these little cups, and I can pull that little petunia out, and you can see all those roots. So then what we'll do is our students will open those roots up, let them know that they can get out of that little circle and really grow, and they'll put them into these bigger trays, and then they'll go from there onto hanging baskets or planters or whatever we want to move them into next. So we've got some more petunias. Now we've got another plant here. The next few plants actually are different varieties of geraniums. So if you like big red or pink flowers, geraniums are really good for that. There's some white varieties. And so we'll be putting those into our basket. You can see these really get big. So we've already put them into big pots. So they move pretty quickly into big pots. And then the last one, and I'll kind of shoot ahead here, would be a dahlia, another really big, beautiful flower. Really deep reddish purple colors to it too. So this greenhouse specifically, this side, is mostly for the teaching how to grow in potting soil. And so teaching the students just what is it like to grow plants in general. If we're going to plant them from seeds, if we're going to use what we call plant plugs, like the cuttings that we did before. We have a second half to this greenhouse though. And then the second half, we focus a lot more on using water to grow our plants. And maybe some classrooms out here have done some learning on this, but we have a system that we call hydroponics. And so we're gonna head over there and start to show some of those other things. While we do, I don't know, Sarah, are there any questions that have come up?
Yeah, we've had a couple. So I know you briefly touched on this, but the kids are wondering how many plants you have right now, and kind of building right off of that of what you do with the plants. Do you use them for landscaping or sell them? And then where does the money to keep your greenhouse functioning come from?
Yeah, good. I'll try to answer that all in one big deal. So as you look around the plants you're looking at right now, there's about 5,000 plants. I know it's hard to believe, but once you really start adding it up, it adds up quickly. Like I said, with the cuttings of the grapes, we have 150 on that one table alone, but those are huge. We have a lot smaller sets here. So we have about 5,000. We're going to get about 4,000 more. And so we'll have 9,000 to mostly sell. Some of these are going to go into community planters. When you drive downtown Elbow Lake, just north of here, a lot of these plants will be in the planters outside of businesses. We came to an agreement with the city hall about how to do that, and so we help with that. But a lot of these will be in like hanging basket, beautiful planters that will open up for that plant sale, and those are the funds that keep us going. So we got a lot of grants to start this. This was a great community undertaking. Actually, if anybody lives in a community with a Lions Club, our Lions Clubs really did a lot of the legwork to get this started. But now it's our job to produce something that has a value that we can make enough money to keep going. So we actually keep our lights on with the money we make from our plant sales. This isn't the only one. We're planning on doing a fall mum type sale, and we might get into poinsettias. They're pretty difficult, but we can do more than one sale throughout the year and continue to bring some money in to help us to do this. Okay, if there aren't any other questions, we'll start heading into, we were in what was called zone 2. So this is called zone 2. We're going to move actually into zone 1 next. And when I first come in here, I'll show you one of our challenges is we're in rural Minnesota, and water is sometimes a difficult thing to work with. It sometimes isn't the cleanest. And so we actually put in a system of reverse osmosis. It's a system you might have under your sink at home, so that we have nice, healthy water that we use for most of our systems. So this is actually the water we use for feeding most of our plants. We have a sink set up in here where we do a lot of our washing. We clean everything a lot. There are a lot of things that can cause plants to get sick. So this is how we can keep them from passing on some sicknesses. So we'll start looking at a little bit of hydroponics here. So I'm going to show you, I don't have a dry one. We'll just pull one of these up. So we have a little tray here, and this has seedlings inside of it. This is not soil. This is actually called rock wool. And this rock wool is something that just is really easy for plants to sit in, a seed to sit in. And this seed was just planted earlier this week, and it's going to germinate and grow. Once it starts to grow, we're going to move it down into these trays where every couple of hours water fills up the trays and waters these plants. And then as the water pump shuts off, the water dissipates and goes away, because plants need water, but they also need air. So they need both in their root system. So we give them those cycles. And then when they get mature enough, they will end up with these little root systems in there, if you can see that. And these aren't quite there yet. They're really, really close to where we would want to transplant them or move them into our next system, which is where we're going to go next. So we start with a seed, and then we grow them up to this rooted small plant here. Then, probably the most exciting part, I think, for our greenhouse is that this is all plants that we started out in those little flow table rock wool pods. And so we call this a nutrient film tray, and we'll show you what that looks like in a second here. Maybe we'll come down to maybe one of these plants. So these were all seedlings in that other tray that have grown, and they now have this huge root system. And so those roots are going to be pulling up water and nutrients. And Meadow's standing here. Meadow is a community member that works with us every day, and she is going to turn the system on, or maybe it's on. I don't think, is it on? Okay. So this system is on. So this whole tray is like a rain gutter, and I'll pull this line up, and you can see there's water pouring out of it. And so that tube goes in there, and right now there's water pouring down every row, and that water has plant food in it, and each of these different plants will grow, and the water pushes through it, and then we recycle that water. We have a whole system here of different plants, lots of lettuce. We have Swiss chard, beautiful Swiss chard. We've been taking a lot of cuttings. You can see we've been harvesting it, and it keeps growing back and getting massive leaves to it. We have a lot of what we showed you in the other class, or in the other zone, a lot of basil. And this stuff's getting pretty mature. We've been harvesting it every few days, and I can smell it right now. It just smells like an Italian restaurant over there. So today is a special day, because what we did was we were growing these out, and I should tell you, we have some younger ones behind there that you can't see, and you can kind of see different groupings of these plants. We have groups of plants, about 72 plants in each group, and we have a cycle that every 4 weeks, a group of 72 plants are ready for harvest. So every single week, we're harvesting 72. The next week will be 72, and the next week will be 72 more, so on and so forth. So you guys get to witness this. We have a plant science class here. We have our students working on harvesting. They have a lettuce variety today. Excuse me. And you can see that they've got food grade bags and food grade gloves on, and they cut the base of the lettuce and then put it into baggies. And all of our baggies are here. We'll put those in refrigeration in a few minutes here. Right now, basically all of our lettuce that we're harvesting, we then take, and our students go to our local food shelf and give them directly to our food shelf. And this is another point of where we could potentially do some sales in the future and keep the systems going as well. So what they'll do after they're done with all of this harvesting is we'll have these big old root systems. I don't even know if we'll be able to pull this one out because it's such a mature one, but we'll give it a shot.
Eric, I'm just going to interject there and say, so they were asking, does your community host a farmer's market, or do you use any of this in your school lunch program in addition to the food shelf?
Yeah, so we do. Every town around us has a farmer's market in the summertime, and that is a potential future. I should say, you know, we've really been doing this for a couple of years, and we're really, I think, have gotten ourselves in a position to do something like that. So that could be really soon where we could do farmers markets. The students, we do have a lot of other things going on around here. We have an apple orchard at the school, and in September, October timeframe, the whole school goes down to the orchard and they harvest the apples, and those go into our school lunch program. This stuff, so far we haven't, and the only reason is if you come back and look at that again, Kelsey, the amount that we've got here, that's probably not enough to feed the whole student body. So if we've got 350 kids going through the lunch line, we don't have quite enough to do that at this point. That doesn't mean we wouldn't in the future. Right now, we got a lot of great grants with the goal of giving our food to the food shelf. So that's our focus right now. But it's a possibility. It really is.
Absolutely. Then they're also wondering, is this appears to be something that could be a yearly project. Do the kids rotate through all of the different jobs, from watering, cleaning, and such, or do you hire a consistent staff as well?
Yeah, so we're very lucky. Our school is very supportive of the program. So this group of students here today are in a plant science class. They're getting an introduction. Once they've taken this class and have really shown good work ethic, that they're responsible and that they really like working in the greenhouse, they can choose to apply to be a greenhouse manager. And that's actually a class. So I have students that are in class in here managing the entire system. I like to tell people that I know about 10% of what's going on out here. My students run 90% of it. And so they are in charge. They decide, what are we growing? They look for pests and diseases. They do all of the work in here for us. And that's a really exciting piece. Meadow, who we've seen a couple of times, is a little bit of a different story. So she is a former student of mine, and we were able to have an opportunity to hire her for 1 year as a community supporter to help us get our food systems in place. So Meadow's with us through August to be able to keep on doing this. We talked about this. We have all this food. Our school has that orchard. We also have a sweet corn plot. So we have 1/2 of an acre of sweet corn. We get about 600 or 700 dozen ears of corn that we are putting out to the community. And then we have actually a meat processing trailer too. So we cut pork chops and we cut ribeye steaks, and then we make hamburgers, and we're going to try hot dogs real soon here. And so Meadow has helped us to be able to make all the things that we need to be in place, like having food grade gloves and bags, but also to get us set up with our good water system so that we've got healthy water for our plants to grow. This place would not operate without all that help.
So Eric, we only have about 3 minutes left.
Okay, we're going to go the fast way over here then.
Yeah. And while you're moving to that spot, they're also wondering if the greenhouse keeps you busy throughout the summer.
We actually shut ours down. I'll give you the short answer. We close it all down. We wash it all up so that we can get rid of any possible diseases. So we actually shut ours down and started up in September again. I do want to show you this if we were down to 3 minutes. For those of you that want to have something in your classroom, we started using these types of hydroponic towers, and we now have 8 of them in the district, with most of them in our 4th grade classrooms. This company is called My Garden. I'm not trying to sell a product, but I'm telling you it does work very well. I'll just show you. I'll lift up these chives. It's little cups that have if you can see the roots in there, and maybe our cilantro would have better roots. Oh yeah, there's some roots there. So it's a hydroponic tower that fits in a little, maybe 4 square foot area. There's a water tank on the bottom, and it actually tells you what to do on an app. So the app on your phone teaches you exactly what to do. You don't have to have any plant science experience for something like this. So a really good product that we've enjoyed, and we've been able to start our 4th graders off. Next year, we're going to have every one of our 1st grade classrooms have this as well.
Awesome. So they also are wondering if your greenhouse is attached to your school and how long you've had the greenhouse.
Yep. So we built the greenhouse in 2022. So we're only 2.5 years old, and we're about, I'd say 30 feet away from the school. So I can see outside my ag room door and window, I can see the greenhouse. And so it's real close.
Is there any last thing you'd like to show us before we have to wrap up today?
I don't think that you'll be able to see it all real fast, but you can see that we have a lot of craziness going on, and there's a lot of technology with this greenhouse. Greenhouses have come a long way. So we have got a bunch of very fancy computer systems that do a lot of it. We even have a company that came and trained us in on how to use it, but it's really cool because when we have a winter blizzard, I live 25 miles away, and I don't have to worry about the greenhouse. Not only does it tell me it's doing okay, but I can look in here on video and on the app. It's pretty amazing, the technology, and we need a lot more students to get into careers that can work on that kind of technology too, to help us to be able to grow our food.
Absolutely. It takes everybody to make agriculture go round. That's for sure. Well, thank you very much, Eric, for welcoming us into your greenhouse, and a great way to officially kick off spring, right?
Right.
And thank you again to Kelsey for doing our camera work. And for anybody who would like to learn more or work with Minnesota agriculture in the classroom, reach out to our staff, follow us on social media and our YouTube channel. You can find us at mn.agclassroom.org. And thank you all for joining us today.